think of the word diva, we often think, don't we, about people, in particular in the world of entertainment. But of course, of late, it's actually become shall we say, a monogram for certain individuals inside the British monarchy. You know the ones I'm talking about. And what really happens is it's kind of like this prefix, isn't it, of you better be nice to these people because they can be something of a diva. Of course, in the latter part of the 20th century, it was applied to anybody who apparently was deemed as difficult, demanding and wanting their own way. People like, say, Betty Davis, who a lot of people said was difficult to work with. I would rather think that actually she just really knew her worth and more importantly knew the star power that she had and had to fight for singly everything. Hence the reason she had battles with her studio and its boss Jack Warner. But when you're looking at a diva, truly, you could be, well, literally applying this to an Australian superstar that some might say actually invented the word. As ever, let me explain. Lovely to see you today. Thank you so much for your time. And as ever, thank you for enjoying these look back at royal history. I find it as fascinating as you, simply because, as I say, I'm lucky enough to work with many of the royal collection people and stuff like that. And you have access to things that basically a lot of people don't see. And when we think about things in our modern times, I do always sort of think, as I've often said, nothing is new. It's all been done before, including, of course, a coronation concert. Let's not forget, just a couple of years back now, we had a wonderful concert at Windsor Castle, introduced by His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, Prince William, with the delights of the like of Motown legend Lionel Richie, who couldn't quite believe his luck that he'd been picked to perform at that spectacular event. And he will go down in history because this is what happens. You see, way back in 1902, this particular Australian superstar, no, we're not talking about Dame Edna Everage, even though of course she seemed to have been around forever, but none other than the contralto soprano that was Dame Nellie Melba, she was asked to appear at the coronation concert for the Prince of Wales, coming up of course to be King Edward VII. Couldn't quite believe her luck, although she'd performed for the Prince of Wales before at all the major opera houses, including of course Covent Garden. But she knew this was rather special simply because that this would be part of history, not part of, you know, her operatic world. But it was a really strange thing actually that bonded them along the way. Now, as you can imagine, putting a concert together of that level at the prestigious Royal Albert Hall was something of a, well, kerfuffle to say the least. Dame Nellie Melba decided that actually she had to be front, left and centre of literally everything. Where was she going to appear on the bill? Right. And at the end of the finale, would she be in the centre? Because no doubt, of course, the king would demand this. He was, of course, one of her biggest, well, if not her biggest fan. Everything was done to appease, as one can imagine, the diva of the opera halls. But the thing that actually bonded them together, well, there were a couple of bits, in fact, which I did find fascinating because Dame Nellie was a very difficult person to work with. Off stage, a completely different voice to the beautiful sweet sound that she made on the stage. And naturally, she put Australia on the map in the entertainment world, something that we can't really think about today because it's so long ago, but she was that popular, not just here in England and obviously in the beautiful land of Australia, but in the New York Metropolitan Opera House too, standing ovations. She knew her power, so much so that actually she wouldn't allow people to remove gloves or hats during her performance, and indeed spectacularly once stopped a whole concert when one man dared to unwrap a sweet. Yes, apparently it put her off. Your sort of woman, right? But the one thing that bonded His Majesty the King, King Edward, and Dame Nellie was simply this. They both had a bawdy love of the music hall. That's right. And in particular this song, which apparently Vesta Tilley made famous. Now, what I like about this is the fact that the Coronation Dude was not something that Dame Nellie would naturally sing, but apparently she did sing it privately for the Prince of Wales, simply because he loved it so much. But it was his sort of gentle persuasion that actually forced her into an arena that she wasn't too keen upon. And this was truly it. You see, with the burgeoning arrival of the phonograph, making music that you could listen to in the privacy of your own home, she was very much against it. And the story goes she only really relented when she found out exactly how much the wonderful Caruso was earning from this particular segment. So she decided to go along with this particular story. And what was fascinating was that she also demanded the colour of her own record label and the lettering, the sizing, all that sort of stuff. But the person behind that was none other who got her to change her mind, because she'd already made some recordings in the 1800s, didn't like them, thought it was no. But once His Majesty the King had said he couldn't possibly survive without hearing her voice in the privacy of his own palace, well then she relented. Of course, a sizable money attached also. And so consequently, it was His Majesty the King that finally got one of the greatest operatic stars down on cylinder. And it's him that we have to thank for the fact that we have so much of her repertoire to date. And when she had made new recordings, she instantly took them round to the palace, because he would insist on hearing them first before anybody else. You see, goes right back to the start of this video, the original Diva. And according to that source, the king knew what a sort of difficult woman she might be, but played along with every single thing. And apparently they did enjoy secret nights out to the much, well, seemingly rowdy and bawdy music hall. Apparently this was her escape and his escape. And that's truly what bonded the king and the opera star. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.